coming up.
One story missing. And as soon as I came off the event, I had the story so clear in my head. Point of view, when it comes about making more money, I can tell to my IT guy, to my managed service provider, if I'm a small business, to say, your service is too expensive, I can take someone who have offshored a bit cheaper. But the response from the partner should normally be, but it's not, they should say, it's not too expensive. Maybe you don't earn enough money as a company. How can we help you to make more money? Because when the currency is the email address, the power of the subscriber is in the hands of the unsubscribe button.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. My name is Kieran, and today I've got myself a very special guest, another guest who I met at Open Coffee Sydney. I've butchered his name so many times. I'm going to try and get it right this time. Gunnar, thanks again for agreeing to come on the podcast, mate. How you been?
Thank you, Kieran. Thanks for the invitation. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I mean it's great. I mean, like you're the third guest of the new season. I've had Raghav come on as the first guest of this new revamp of the podcast, and then I just had Nathan Lindsay also on just recently, and now you're the third one. So yeah, thanks for agreeing to come on. And yeah, for those that don't know you and whatnot, feel free to tell us a bit about you and what it is that you do and whatnot.
Yeah, happy to do so. In a quick short form, so my name is Gunnar. That's a Swedish name. My last name is from Morocco. I grew up in Germany, worked most of my life in Switzerland, and came to Australia 8 years ago. I used to work in the IT field at HP, Hewlett-Packard, for 16 years. But then due to a layoff, I found myself without anything. And what can you do when you have time at your hand and it is January to March? You don't want to be in the cold in Europe when I always have been there at that time. So rather the idea was to go to the South Pacific.
Oh, wow.
Traveling New Zealand for 3 months with a potential idea of moving down under. I thought Auckland, where I studied English 26 years ago, or maybe Wellington would be a good idea. And I figured out that all IT-related roles, I came from the vendor side, let's say companies like Salesforce or HubSpot, they would have all of their roles for the New Zealand market based in Sydney. We also took a cruise, my wife and I, which went around New Zealand, and that didn't go back to Auckland. It then added Hobart, Melbourne, and Sydney.
Yep.
And I met friends from Melbourne who are now from Europe, and they moved back there, and they said, no, you don't want to move to New Zealand. Beautiful for vacation, but the IT jobs are here.
Yep.
And actually, in my field, software as a service, it's Sydney, not even Melbourne.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Then I came here, moved here in end of 2016. I spent 2 months beforehand here and doing leadership trainings.
Yep.
Built a strong network. I'm a big fan of doing this online and offline together in a blended mix.
That's where we met. Actually, we met at a networking event, Open Coffee Sydney.
Yes. And for me, networking is a way how you can learn about people.
Yes.
Different type of people. So I try to read the room in advance to figure out who will be there. What are the stories that they might be able to tell?
Yep.
Not how I can pitch my services to them. It's not about that. But how to build connections.
Okay.
Particularly as someone with a name not easy to spell or write.
Yes.
Therefore, it's more about what I can learn about them. And even when I then needed a job with sponsorship visa 8 years ago, I didn't ask anything for help on the job side. But rather, I listened to what the people had to say, and I connected them. As a stranger coming from outside, I connected one Aussie to another Aussie, that they can solve problems and build a network.
Yep.
And at the end, after a while, it paid back.
Yeah, I think those types of connections that you actually build, like not trying to sell or not even trying to like sort of sell something or just trying to like look for a job or anything, they're just like genuine just connections. I think those ones there sort of pay off a lot more in the long run because one, you're also getting to know the person as a whole, and you can just sort of see, like, for example, whether or not like you do want to sort of work with them, or you do want to say, like, if something goes wrong with them or if they are looking for something or whatnot, do you want to recommend them for anything there? Because at the end of the day, if you recommend someone, you are putting your own reputation also on the line as well. So I think that's where when you do build a relationship, you shouldn't be looking for the first and foremost. You should be looking at the human relationship first rather than the actual business side of the relationship, especially at networking events when you're trying to just meet people and just connect with them.
Exactly. And that is the way how I then eventually found the right level of role, moved over here, worked 2 years despite I've been working at HP and got out there, I've been an HP partner.
Yep.
Learned my way through the IT networking industry, moved up in type of other roles at other companies. Spent 3 years at Hootsuite, that's all about social media. I created online course, 2 or 3 of them about that topic that got me into Hootsuite. I ran a side business digital marketing agency for email marketing that set the foundation of my current role as I work as partnership manager at ActiveCampaign.
Oh, wow.
Email automation.
Oh wow, that's actually really cool. You're also because we've had a few sessions, and also when I remember seeing you at Open Coffee Sydney, you are also an author. You also publish a few books. One of the books that you released, I think November, and because we actually had a conversation about this early in January, Lead Not Manage. You're also releasing another book a little bit later, which you did sort of say in a few of the Open Coffee Sydney's one, LinkedIn for Startups. If I'm LinkedIn for Startups there, I mean, can you sort of give us a little bit of insight into like either one, like into your Lead Not Manage one, or even into both, or even just writing, especially in that area as a whole?
Yeah, happy to do that. So first of all, how does someone come to book writing? It's not the normal thing, particularly in the past not. Today it seems to be easy. Just put something together in ChatGPT, upload to Amazon, and you are a published author. But for me, it's not about that, because it should give a reputation of authority.
Yes.
Based on an expertise that someone has. I'm not too much of the fan of the word thought leader, because there's someone who can think well. I would prefer the word of a subject matter expert that sounds like they have done the work and they can talk about it. So in my case, during my university time in Europe, I've been a tour guide. I brought tourists from Hamburg to London to Paris, Amsterdam, Venice, and mostly Prague. But based at that time, the books, like tour guide books, like here you have Lonely Planet, they were not that good.
Yep.
And then I had to correct for one publisher one, and then I wrote the first one at another publisher, and then the second one that I mentioned invited me to write another one there, and then there were at the end 21 of them after a period of time in the travel book industry. And I thought, hang on, I have the expertise and the social proof that I can write books. Why don't I simply utilize this and write for myself in self-publishing? And I started a weekly series on LinkedIn where I talk about the power of social selling.
Yep.
That doesn't mean how to hardcore sell, but how to rather have a social way of doing this, combining social and digital to advance conversation. That's all about. And I created this book out of an idea that I've had from the series where I write for 322 weeks, every week, once per week, about the topic, using the same hashtag, which is called Social Selling Monday.
Wow.
Today, I published this on a Thursday. It's not always the same day, but at least something with 4 tips, because I'm born on the 4th is my magic number. I know not in every culture, but for me, it's fine. And then I thought I just compile 100 posts, make it as a book, easy, takes a weekend.
Yep.
It took maybe 4 months to make it happen. I launched it with a big bang launch on my own birthday in 2023.
Wow.
That was nice. Then all what we talked about, networking, came into play. The main character of these books is that it's not just me talking, giving tips, but rather, number one, the book is based on double pages. We have issue with attention span. People don't want to read long things, particularly not on business.
Yeah.
But a double page you read in 5 minutes. You can put action on it. You can go whenever in the book. You open wherever you like. You have 42 of those. Read something, put in action. So it's highly practical. But it's not just based on what I have to say.
Yep.
So I added a dozen of other experts who have between 1 and 4 pages what's relevant to them.
Oh, wow.
That helps to give them a stage in the book.
Yep.
And it helps that I could have some of those in my book launch and the panel session. And I saw, particularly one of them, Wendy Lloyd Curley, who's a strategic networker, how she networked the whole room of my 50 people at the book launch. That was really, really nice. I enjoyed that. And also, it was a time just without knowing that 3 weeks later, unfortunately, my back then company faced a layoff situation. So I found myself free again of not daily commitments.
Yeah.
Meaning I didn't have work. So I could use the power of the book, and that got me 30 times more consulting dollars on the subject compared to royalties.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I mean, like I've actually because I actually started reading your last, the book there. I've actually been tossing and turning whether or not to either get the digital copy there, the one that you sent me with the link, or to actually buy the physical, because I at times I prefer the physical. But reading the Lead Not Manage, the first few pages of it, it really actually I actually kind of liked as to how you sort of put it into sort of like story sort of format, but I really actually sort of could sort of resonate with it as well, because it just sort of felt like, you know what, this is actually sort of how I this is I could sort of understand it a lot more and whatnot. So I really did actually enjoy so far. When I decide to, I'm probably going to get the hard copy. And when I do, I'll probably have to get you to sign it there, and whatnot. But when I do, and when I do read it there fully as a whole and whatnot, there is, so far it's off to a very good start.
Thank you. But there's one differentiation. So the book that I mentioned, Connect and Act, Systematic Social Selling, is more like a business self-help book. The book that you mentioned, Lead Not Manage, which I announced at an author event in the New South Wales State Library on the 30th of November, I had a slide at the end of my talk which says, like Steve Jobs had, one more thing. And I then launched what I called a bottomless book bundle, with the idea that those who buy this as a digital copy, whenever they get to it, and I have maybe another story on it, they get the latest version.
Oh, wow.
Which is hard on the paperback side. The only thing at that time, it was not even completed. So the book, Lead Not Manage, is a collection of stories, of 5 stories, which are, one is real, one is started with a podcast, but 3 of them are fictive stories. The one that you read first, called Lead Not Manage, comes from my activities at the Institute of Managers and Leaders.
Yep.
I started to learn management here. I've done an advanced diploma of leadership and management at AIM, the Australian Institute of Management. And then they split to the membership arm, which is now called IML. And I talked about their leadership principles in that fictive story.
Yep.
The funny thing is, as you, Kieran, you work in the startup industry.
Yep.
I wrote just after that launch event, after that showcase event in the library, I thought there's one story missing. And as soon as I came off the event, I had the story so clear in my head. So I created one based on another text I wrote, too short to include it in the book, which is about curiosity as a driver for emotional intelligence. I placed it in a book of the Institute years ago, but then I thought, let's do a fictive story about that. So I created a fictive software company based in Sydney. We have so many ones. Call it a startup because they only, in my story, only had one first paying client and some others up to come. And that is software for ESG, that's environmental, social, and governance. A company called Sustainable, which of course doesn't exist. And I placed the story around the chief product officer, a young man, aged maybe 33, and he's a co-founder, and he has a couple of other people, and recognize that in startups, when you hire from different areas of expertise, you might run into cultural issues. So they go around this in a startup, and they also recognize one thing. If you try as a startup to immediately pitch or sell your product to the first potential client, direct customer, the tricky thing is how they would even find you. So I work in the partnership fields. I personally believe that startups who really try the big effort of getting to the first client, when the founders are not that well known, it's difficult. But nobody knows them. A potential buyer for this will not have the startup on the radar. So therefore, I added, as an example of ESG, I added this fictive customer as a historical hotel, quite close to the one where I am a board director. And they work with a consultant. So I place the role of a consultant. The consultant talks to companies. They know if they have a problem. They figure out if it's worth solving, and they potentially can source a solution even within startups where the end customer doesn't have the bandwidth or the connections to it. So add a partner in it before you add a direct customer. That's the main message of the story, which I call curiosity wins the pitch. And it ends with a pitching night for this company, Sustainable, at Fishburners.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, like partnerships, it's something that one of my other mentors actually did sort of say to me, that if you want to get a successful business, partnerships for a startup are crucial. Like they are the crucial aspect in deciding whether or not the business can be able to be sustainable. Because if you are, say take sales and whatnot, it takes time to be able to try and get all those sales and try to get customers on board. Whereas if you do strategic partnerships, you're basically essentially, depending on what your strategic partnership is or depending on who you're partnered with, can actually market essentially to their audience or to their clienteles for you and for you instead, which will make things a lot more easier and a lot more simpler. And that's something there as to which I learnt at my previous startup, and that's something there as to what I know from what my mentor also basically they said to me, and that's something there to which even going forward in startups, I look and I sort of say, okay, that there's a crucial aspect, like obviously yes, the marketing and the selling and the trying to get of the customer base is a crucial point, but you have to also say, okay, who can we partner with? Who can we partner with, and can they provide us benefit? I mean, obviously we can provide them benefit. How can we provide them benefit? But how can they provide us benefit by helping us reach helping us reach their clientele?
That's good. It's all about what's in it for me.
Yes.
To be answered in three ways: between the vendor, the partner, and also the customer.
Exactly.
The customer might not know about the vendor. The partner puts this glue together on it. But of course, it needs to be relevant for them.
Of course.
I worked in a risk management software company with partners. It's the first one ever to recruit partners. I worked with Deloitte, the largest one of them, but typically boutique consultants. And they said, great software. I know how I can implement it with my clients, but I won't do it. I said, what's missing? They said, my way, one of them particularly said from Melbourne, my way of doing business continuity management, I developed this type of methodology. Okay. I would love to use your software to digitize this, but what I want to have it to set a master one with everything for me, and I copy this to others. But back then, my software couldn't do it. You need to do it for every customer again and again from scratch. Because the product team thought the consulting is nothing else than the executive arm of the customer who executes like implementation consultant.
Yep.
They didn't think that there's a strategic consultant who has the principles how to run business continuity or whatever the other expertise on that would be. And that is where this part of partnership failed.
Yep.
Working now at Active Campaign and email marketing, we have exactly this feature. So a partner, I work with one in Melbourne who talks to accountants. He knows exactly what type of funnel journey the clients of an accountant would have. So he creates per default a welcome campaign, email sequence, and then a nurturing campaign, and whatever the quarterly things that business have to do in Australia, like bars and all of this one, it is all there. They get a new client, they copy exactly that for the new clients, and then tweak their logo, their colors, and a bit of their messaging. But the majority of work is done once and then just applied multiple times. And that is a shortcut for the partner not to waste too much time again, which he cannot charge, or if they would charge, would be too expensive.
Oh, wow. That
really means cool. That the vendor, in our case, our company Active Campaign, need to really think on the whole journey, how an end customer get an outcome of utilizing the software. No company is there to just buy software. They do this because they want to solve a problem.
Yeah, I mean,
in the best possible way.
Yeah, I mean, when you put all that there yourself, there, I mean, the customer and whatnot. I mean, especially like they're the ones that are going to be paying for the product. Like they're the ones that are going to be buying it. So if you can't get that, so if you can't provide them, with the services that they're going to need, or that they, that they're going to need or require to help, whether it's with their business or whether it's in their personal life or whatever, then they're not really going to come back after that first initial purchase, and that's something there to which is very, very crucial.
I would even say the customer's not even there to buy software. They want to get the outcome.
Exactly.
It could be that a partner in between is buying the software license, and they sell them the outcome of having that software managed. In our case, run email campaigns, set up landing pages, all of this one. So the customer only needs to have that these landing pages, that these campaigns and automations make them money.
Yeah.
That someone goes to a reason on their website, types in something, and then the whole machinery runs. For the end customer, they don't even have to run it by themselves. But someone with expertise can do it, and that's the power of marketing agencies.
Okay.
And that's what I learned also on the journey, working in the IT field for 2 decades or more. If you look today, you have many in the field of IT. Think about all the cybersecurity side or productivity like Microsoft 365.
Yep.
What they are doing, they help a client on more efficiency and productivity. What the partner does often is seen also like a cost. So you need to reduce the cost. But they are not consulted from the company point of view when it comes about making more money. Okay. I can tell to my IT guy, to my managed service provider, if I'm a small business, to say, your service is too expensive, I can take someone who have offshored a bit cheaper. But the response from the partner should normally be, but it's not, they should say, it's not too expensive. Maybe you don't earn enough money as a company. How can we help you to make more money? But the IT partner is normally not consulted on it. The marketing agency is. Okay. That's a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting the way as how you put that, because I sort of look at that and I actually do think that way is actually very, very insightful, because it's almost like a double, because it's almost like sort of saying, okay, well, how can we help you earn more money in this sort of sense, so that way you can keep coming to us. Which is a win-win for both, because the partnerships person will be able to keep the clients, and the client will be able to help earn more money. I mean, it's a very very interesting sort of take on that, and one there to which I don't think, well, me myself, I haven't actually sort of seen that actually sort of taken. Haven't actually sort of seen that there. So that's actually very, very, very interesting, and whatnot, and actually something there to which I think now that I'm thinking about it a bit more, is something there to which I'm now actually starting to now think, why aren't people sort of doing that a lot more than, or maybe it's just the way as to how like why aren't people sort of doing that sort of aspect a little bit more?
That's a good question. Very often, particularly in the tech field, many vendors have mostly more salespeople than partnership people.
Yep.
And often it works like this, that someone else is figuring out who the prospective customer is. They hand it over then to the account executive or business development, whatever we call the salesperson, who goes a little bit of a journey with them towards discovery, showing a solution. Maybe get a solution consultant from the vendor to figure out if that actually helps a client. And once they all agree and figure out that is exactly the next step that makes sense, then someone else goes over, like onboarding and implementation, customer success, and renewal, all of these steps. But the salesperson, who are normally well equipped in building relationship, they're off to the next one.
Yeah.
And us in partnership, for us, it's different. We work long on the journey. We build the trust and relationship with them so that we really know what's going on. And when I looked after managed service providers, when I came to Australia, one of the first one in city systems in Sydney, in the CBD, I worked with him for 2 years. At 6 years ago, we still meet for coffee every quarter.
Mm-hmm.
He then asked me some years ago, he said, Gunnar, I think I would send my daughter to a German-speaking school. There are 2. Which one would you recommend?
Mm-hmm.
Would you normally ask this a business contact? Only if a good relationship is
Yeah,
built.
exactly.
And I really appreciate this. It's an honor, and I think I earned getting this question and getting into these conversations.
Yeah.
Which one day I could then ask him back and I said, hey, I heard about this new technology where I think it could help you. I don't sell this, I'm not involved, but a friend of mine is.
Yeah.
And I told the friend of mine, happy to connect with you, not to sell, but you are a sounding board. And they said, okay, happy to have for 45 minutes for a call.
Yeah.
That normally would be a cold pitch and would say, nah, who's that?
Exactly. I mean, like it all comes down to the relationships, and that's something there as to which I think is important. And what you sort of said there, particularly with the sales and the sales sort of journey, like they are with them from like with the new clients, with the pitching and like there from the very beginning. So there is sort of like that relationship there. But then, as you sort of said there, once the partnership person there comes in, ready for the onboarding and whatnot, the relationship isn't there. So it's almost like they have to sort of start a brand new relationship while the salesperson is off trying to find someone else. And it really, like the salesperson has already started to form that rapport with this potential client, and it can really sort of, like, I won't say affect it, but it's something there to which maybe if you have both partnership and sales skills, I think could potentially be a lot more beneficial, because you're able to sort of say, look, I can get my own clients and I can onboard them and I can still keep them and whatnot. And that's sort of something there as to which hearing the way as to how you sort of put it there, because I actually genuinely do agree with that, because there are some times there where you have people in a startup where or in business where they do a sales and then they then go off and send you off to someone else to then do the rest of the onboarding and all that there, and you sort of lose that relationship, and and it's a different relationship. Like if someone, like, take the salesperson, he might reply within 24 hours, but then the partnerships guy might reply within 36 or 48 hours. And if you're really stuck on a problem, then it can really determine the rapport, and also whether or not the customer service of whether or not you want to attend to them going forward into the future.
Yeah, you hit a couple of good points. Also, when an issue happens, what would a partner do? Of course, they could simply put on a ticket in a ticketing system. But no, they build a relationship with the person. That when I, as a partner who maybe has 20 customers, have this issue, there might be others. So I believe you have heard about it. What's your take on it? Instead of I put a ticket and I treat it like a number. And that is where I'm always happy to help, because I can see trends, what's going to. I can see the concerns that someone has.
Yes.
I can figure out how maybe a journey of being reachable can be improved. Otherwise I wouldn't know about it. It brings me to one story, because you mentioned that I'm writing a book called LinkedIn for Startups, which is basically the startup version of my book, Connect and Act, my LinkedIn-related book. But I will tailor it more towards startup, because a traditional startup, founder-based, in a garage, where I started my software programmer career, actually, in the physical garage, back then in Germany, on software in the automotive field. And I came actually too early. Imagine this, in 96.
Oh, wow.
Still student, young man.
I wasn't born then.
That's fine. me already. But I created a software in the automotive fields. I demonstrated it as a young man at the automotive fair in Germany. It was touch-based video conferencing, simulating like a kiosk system in a shopping department. The man is bored. The lady is buying some clothes, and he has interest in cars, so he can configure some cars or whatever, but then also get in contact with the service people at his own car dealership.
Oh, wow.
Hey, what about this and that? And can I get this in the car, whatever? Or even used cars. And in 96, you wouldn't sell cars over the internet. In 96, you wouldn't normally talk to someone on video. There was no Zoom back then.
Yeah.
Internet was new that most people didn't know what it was, and I had this system created so early with touch. Wow. So sometimes when you come too early, it's not good. But it was a founder-led company. The founder had the big network. But normally, when you have that in a startup, you realize you need to have also time that you need to invest as a founder.
Yep.
The visible sign of the company, to be active on social media. And that is difficult to do this in a consistent, consequent way.
Exactly.
Therefore, I take my LinkedIn social selling book, which initially was created around small businesses, not necessarily enterprises, and take it further into startups who do not have the chance to spend 4 hours on LinkedIn every day for prospecting. So I had a couple of voices from other experts in the startup field, especially, to hear from them how they actually do that. So the book has a lot of practicality to it. So that is the book I'm writing now, which I hope to launch in February or March. And afterwards, I write another one called Celebrate Your Network. All of that, what we said about partnership, coffee, relationship, trust, everything comes together.
Oh wow! I mean that one. I'm actually excited to actually hear about the Celebrate Your Network one. I'm also looking forward to listen to or to read the LinkedIn for Startups, because I do think that the startup world. I think it was something that what we had a conversation of a few weeks ago, where it was about, or you even just sort of said it a little bit earlier in the podcast, where about an authority or being like an authority, where you've just got to, where people could sort of like listen to you, but also kind of, but to me that's also like, you know, forming your brand or you know, or being like branding and whatnot. So like when it's associated, say, like with startups, for example, or like when it comes to email marketing, they could then say Gunnar will be, Gunnar will be, you know, he's, you know, the man for, or the person to go to when it comes to sort of like the likes of email marketing, B2B and newsletters and all that sort of stuff there. So that's where like, I think we don't see a lot of that and whatnot, but I do think that we are starting to sort of see some of that there come into fruition. I know personally, I am not the avid on LinkedIn more than I should be, and that's something that what I am trying and do, because I do feel like that, even though that I've worked in a startup and whatnot for only a few years, and whatnot, I do feel like that I can give back my knowledge from what I've learned, and that's also part of the reason for this podcast as well, because like I know that, you know, we can learn lots of different things from almost anyone, and you know, whether it's from different experiences and whatnot. So but I do think that with the branding aspect of it, I think that there is something that we are starting to sort of see a little bit more when it comes to people's personal brands, and then hopefully growing on that there with their networks.
Yeah, you hit a couple of good points on that one. Also, it's nice to see when you already worked at a startup for 3 years, that you want to help others who are earlier in the journey compared to yourself. Because let's say like this, and I've seen it at Open Coffee Sydney a couple of times, there are professionals in their mind finishing university with an idea of entrepreneurship, which in my generation was not too much there. It's more treated by, you need to have your job and
exactly,
which for me is fine. An open bracket, all of those who say you need to leave your 9 to 5 and be your own because it's bad to work a 9 to 5, I disagree with them. Every tools they use, think about just Zoom for online conferences. These tools are built by 9 to 5 people and managed by them. So entrepreneurship is great. Mindset, because when you are in a relationship in servicing customers, selling to customers, and they are the leaders in the company, the entrepreneurs, you need to understand that.
Exactly.
So that of course is a very important thing. And that's interesting. Then those who are then in Open Coffee Sydney or in any other startup incubator, being at Western Union here, or being at wherever, even Fish Burners, you find those on a scale to 1 to 10, which maybe at level 1 or level 2. They really would like to get in that. They maybe have an idea. They attend events. they talk to others, so that's good. They might know and heard of Richard Branson and thought about that. That's a great entrepreneur story 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Kind of. So, but back then, when he created Virgin Records and had this lucky situation that somehow he got into Mike Oldfield, his first CD was Tubular Bells, or record, was the first record of Virgin Records. And then became the massive hit. I personally believe without Mike Oldfield, Richard Branson wouldn't be where he is today. It was this unique situation at that time. But if you want to learn from Richard Branson, you can, reading his books, seeing his speeches, but he will not really bother about getting to a fresh, let's say, someone who just graduated from university. Yeah. So on this scale, when Richard Branson is number 10, and the people that we meet here are number 1, on scale 1, that you, Kieran, you are between 2 and 3.
Yeah.
You have done this part. You know what worked. You know what doesn't work. You can help others on the journey.
Exactly.
That I like. Well done.
Exactly. I mean, and like for me myself, like I'm always someone there. I mean, as you sort of said, they're like a 2 or a 3 or whatnot. I mean, like I still feel like that I am still. For me, I feel like that I am a 1 at times as well. Even though that you are shaking your head there, but because like for me, like I feel like that you can learn so much. I mean, like there's like so much that you can basically learn even in the startup world there. I mean like just even having just conversations there with like with the likes of Nathan, yourself, Peter, Raghav, and even just like and even just like other people there from Open Coffee Sydney. Like you just sort of feel like that you can just sort of learn a lot from it, and you can sort of take that knowledge, and whilst even though that you might not be or either you might not be in a startup right now, or you might be, or you might be in or you might be working for a startup, but you're not at that phase yet. But you can take that knowledge and you can just sort of say, okay, when it gets to this point, this is what previous people have sort of said, and that's sort of something there as to which I think is sort of like a good way, and the way is how I also sort of look at it is like I know the struggles of what it's like working in a startup, like people, I mean, like I think I said this in the previous episode with Nathan, like if people say to me that if you're going to be working in a startup, or if you're going to be starting up a business, or if you want to do entrepreneurship, that you're looking to want to start a multi-billion-dollar company overnight and all that sort of stuff there, and get all the fame like Elon Musk and all that sort of stuff there. And I sort of said to them, that's just very naive. Like to me, that is very naive. It's long hours. Honestly, it is like a slugfest. It is a slug. The hours are excruciating to the point where, like, you do at times give up at times, or you do feel like that you do want to give up, but you don't. But then the next day, it's a new challenge. But if you work, say, 11 hours one day and get absolutely no results in terms of sales, but then the next day you only work, say, 2 hours and you get more sales and than you do, then it really does. Like the ups and downs and the trials and tribulations, and it is a slog, but that's something there as to which I do like. I mean, personally, because for me, like when I talk with people at Open Coffee Sydney, I always say to them, it is, like when people that do sometimes want to come to these events, I sometimes do even say, like it is a slog, and people also do say, and that's something there to which I do genuinely agree with, that it is like for people there that do want to work in the startups, that it isn't going to be a nice and cushy sort of situation the first 6 to 12 months, maybe even 18 months, 2 years or whatnot. It's going to be a slog. It's going to be like that there. You're going to have to get into the trenches, and you're going to have to sort of be like, essentially, pay's going to be pretty shocking, not going to be good and whatnot. But if you do want to do it, like me and other people at this Open Coffee Sydney, or other events there like Fish Burners, or even like where we are now here in the launch pad, if you do want to do it, then the success, if it does go off, is immense. But if it doesn't, so what? You've learned. What have you learned from it? And then just take what you've learned from it and move forward with it. So that's sort of the way as to how I sort of view it as well. And that's kind of why I'm always eager to learn as well, because like I know that lots of people's experiences are completely different, and experiences and situations can be completely different, you know, because like if you and me with two completely different experiences, you might handle a situation completely different in, say, a startup to the way how I would right now in terms of it. Or, and that's kind of why I like to ask people lots of different things and all that sort of stuff there.
I actually wrote about this particular point in the story, the Lead Not Manage book. Because I placed one character who I actually met one day at a fintech startup where I applied for a role 4 years ago, whenever it was.
Yep.
5 years ago. And that was an expert who came from Microsoft, so he knows the corporate world well.
Yep.
And then he said, at the end, when I didn't get the job, he said, Gunnar, you have been too much only in the corporate world. I said, no, I actually work in a startup more than you did.
Yeah.
But then I learned and I placed the character a little bit in it, in the sense of, this is how we have done it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I made him a little bit older. But age doesn't mean how it has been 20 years ago is how it is today. That's where, particularly, that's the power of younger entrepreneurs. They don't have the baggage of old.
Yes.
They, of course, try things where someone else would say, that will fail, based on my experience, but maybe not even. So that's interesting. When I placed there a key driver for collaboration as the word curiosity, because curiosity helps to get better in terms of empathy, and emotional intelligence.
Yes.
Because of course I can learn certain facts and things that you can put under IQ.
Mm-hmm.
You can learn the technology which I would place under the word of TQ, that actually exists, the technology quotient as well.
Mm-hmm.
I learned it from a book called Tech Powered Sales from Australian sales book author Tony Hughes and American sales guru called Justin Michael. A book written in 2020 that talks about ChatGPT.
Oh, wow.
2020, 2 years before it came out. It was only version 2, but nobody knew it. Therefore I said curiosity as the driver for emotional intelligence, and I placed it in there, that this particular character who I said he came from Microsoft played more the old way of doing things. And then a young programmer, a lady with Indian background, with a lot of creativity, what she got from being not long after leaving university.
Yeah.
Where they learn so great things these days, better than what I had back then she felt that she better doesn't speak up, because that big ex-Microsoft guru who knows everything better would not like it, or she perceived it as her ideas would block the whole process. But she had this crucial idea of taking the part of the software to say, not only for customers, but make it duplicatable, what partners want, what I told you earlier.
Yes.
That was her idea in that story. And then the co-founder had to meet with business coaches to find cultural way how he can influence his the CTO, the Microsoft guy, about it.
Yeah.
It's not a discredit to Microsoft, of course, in no way, because they invent so much these days. But just by playing a bit in the stereotypes, what you typically do in fictive stories, and that company got the breakthrough by overcoming this. So when they then added curiosity instead of know-it-all, and then even those which are further ahead in the journey can learn from it. I'm a big believer in reverse mentoring.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, like, I think the way as to how you just sort of said that story there, to me, looking at it from an outside point of view, looking in, it seemed like to me that the relationship wasn't firmly built a lot from my viewing of it. And that's where I think, even just going back around, even to the start of the conversation when we were talking about just the building of the relationships and whatnot, like, you can, like, if she, like, because she sort of said, because of the way how you just sort of said there that, you know, massive guru for so many years and all that there, like, you know, she had this great idea up against, like, this guru and whatnot, where, like, you would just sort of think that if they had a better relationship, maybe, like, knew each other a bit more as people, then maybe it would have helped the potential of maybe talking up and maybe saying something like that, and whatnot. I don't know, like that's just the way as how I sort of viewed it as well. But it also then sort of shows there that how relationships, even into like the workplace or even in the startup of a business, and even just working with the people, the relationships, how they are important. Because if you can't talk to someone in a relation, like, because if you don't have that relationship where you can have a normal conversation like you and me, how we have our normal conversations, how like with all these other sort of people and whatnot, we can't sort of say to them when it comes to like work or business and whatnot, this is my idea, what do you think? Here it is, and and actually say to them, these are the points. This is what I mean. This is how this is what I mean, and like all the points going down from that. So that's just my view, looking at it from the outside in, and whatnot. Could be wrong, or it could be completely different.
But it also is based on one thing, that people on different stages in their development can meet on the same level.
Exactly.
Which in decades ago was not easy, that someone fresh out of university would be able to get access to seasoned professionals, or being perceived as someone worth talking to. And for me, it was a big learning when I've been in university back in Germany. The professor I had in computer science, he decided to take some students, 20 or so, to go to visit Telecom, which today is T-Mobile. He would visit Mercedes-Benz car factory, and to see, and even Jacob's coffee, but never let a German decide about coffee, particularly not in Australia. Cannot drink filter coffee. But so I've seen all of that, and then I went, particularly the visit with Mercedes-Benz, and then I start to learn really one thing. There was this guy who runs the IT support center at Mercedes-Benz. We all have been computer scientists, students, programmers, but also with a view of more applied IT in a society sense, not only in hardcore programming. And that guy presented with a software which was totally new for students called PowerPoint. Which today you think we're already over that time, but back then students wouldn't have it. And he had a clicker. He clicked the slides, but looked to the audience. So it was a brilliant showcase of presentation technology, which a normal old-style professor wouldn't be able to do. There was draw on the wall. I wanted to talk to that guy. Just to learn about the presentation techniques, how he's done that. But he had a hidden agenda.
Oh, really?
He wanted to secure an intern for Mercedes-Benz, fresh from university, to get fresh blood out of uni into a company as big as Mercedes-Benz with all their processes. So finally, I gave him my card. I had the business card as a student. I thought one day I might need it. Okay, got it. I gave him that.
Oh, wow.
A week later, they hired me.
Oh, wow.
I think it was 2 months or 3 months as an internship. And then I simply stayed. I continued to study a bit slower. And then I stayed after my thesis inside of Mercedes-Benz. I created kiosk systems with touch. I talked about that earlier. The software startup, but I've done it in Mercedes-Benz first.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Created that. There was nothing about network. I had my bicycle, a keyboard, and a set of disks to update. Okay, funny way. But at least the point was the power and, let's say, this type of reverse mentoring that gentleman saw in young students who, of course, don't have 20 years experience, is perceived as fresh. I really enjoyed that. And I came there, and next to this guy was another one who had a side business.
Oh, wow.
Already then, 20 odd years ago, which was not about car production, but about car dealerships. And then he said, Gunnar, you're working here for 2 days a week. So this means you have another 3 days. I said, I'm a student. But you can study slower. I think what you do here, you can do in my software company.
Oh, wow.
But what I've done in Mercedes-Benz led then later into the intranet, to deploy the intranet.
Oh, wow.
Helped on that one was to put a touch level onto a browser. Brilliant to learn over that one. And then I learned how to present and what you would normally not do too much as a student. And that was how I got in this. It was really this part to it. And building relationship and reverse mentoring. And I really enjoyed that part.
It's kind of reminds me of that old saying, you can teach an old dog new tricks. kind of where like if you bring in someone new, someone who's green, where like they're not battle hardened, like they haven't almost like they haven't experienced the I won't say trauma or the slog of, say, like a startup and whatnot. Like, they haven't been through that there. So, like, they're very bright-eyed, bushy-tailed and very hopeful and whatnot. And, like, the world's almost like their oyster and, you know, like, they're willing to say all these different ideas and whatnot and point it out to you. And it just also makes you sort of brings people back to that way at times where they can just sort of say, oh, yeah, you know, that's actually a really good idea. I hadn't thought of that. I just always thought this, and it can also open up your mind and like your way of thinking, and that's kind of like why I sort of said there, like you can teach an old dog new tricks, as that saying there.
There were two influential situations. Quickly, I hope I get it right.
Go on.
Number one, influence from there. They thought, being fresh from university, a guy who grew up kind of with technology, I had a computer very early on, I can teach them something.
Yep.
So there was an internal magazine which was sent to everyone who related to IT in Mercedes-Benz in the factory. Think about 18,000 workers, so you would reach 2,000 people who are operators of computers. So I wrote the tips, 1 page.
Oh, wow.
Every 2-3 months for years at Mercedes-Benz. So I kept on writing there, and I could use it. And that also helped with, today you would call it blogging.
Yeah.
I was on print, okay. And of course, electronically. So that was one part of it, what I like, what I could utilize, which helped me in writing books.
Yeah.
Because I got reflection of that something I write resonates and has practical relevance, not a theoretical aspect. What I learned at uni. And my professor said, Gunnar, you will never have an academic career if you write too practical.
Yeah.
Not dry enough. Okay, got it. Thank you for that. But the other thing was another one. It was Mercedes-Benz, where you think they invented the automobile.
Yep.
They have been looking upwards towards Toyota, not down.
Oh, wow.
But Toyota added a couple of things in the way how they run their production. Especially, they have a principle that a worker who comes on the idea when he takes in a 20 centimeter long piece of metal in the car, that at 18 centimeter, not only they save some material cost, but the stability is better. And then that employee normally working, the worker would then write a little bit report thinking that maybe you do this or that, by own intrinsic motivation and encouragement from the culture, send it in and get awarded something. And Mercedes-Benz back then, when I've been there, started to slowly think in that direction. So I've been the one who had to give to some suggestions, IT-related, my blessing to it.
Oh, wow.
And that mindset helped because, particularly on me, working now in Asia-Pacific for 8 years, that here in Australia, we have this type of area where we have influences from all over in Asia.
Yeah.
From so many regions, people coming and adding their expertise, their flavor, their culture, that being open for this one really matters. And that's what started back then when I saw they don't look down to the Japanese who came later with cars, but they said, what can we learn from them?
Yes, always looking up. And I mean, like, I think that's something there as to which I think people, especially in startups, looking to do for their own personal branding as well. Like always look up and just sort of say, you know, like obviously as to what you sort of said there, you know, you got to be an authority and whatnot. But even though that you are, that you are an authority, you can always still look up and still see if there is new things to learn. Like there's always new ways to sort of learn, because like as you sort of said there, back when the internet first started, like 20 years ago, or nearly 30 years ago, and whatnot, like in 1996 and all that there, where how nobody would thought of Zoom, nobody would have had all these sorts of conversations and whatnot, and you know, people at the top of their fields, you know, they're still constantly looking up. So that's something there as to which I think from a startup's point of view, as to from this conversation to which I am actually really enjoying and whatnot, that if you are wanting to be in the startup space, one thing there, especially what I've learned from you as well there, which is if you want to be to be an authority, as like to try and be an authority, but to make sure that you have a presence and also and whatnot. Be, as you say there, keep posting on your LinkedIn, but make sure it provides value and be associated with the, like you sort of say there, business to business or email marketing and all that sort of stuff there, and whatnot. So that's sort of something there as to which I think a lot of startups can actually or a lot of people there who are, founders or wanting to be startups or wanting to work in startups and all that there, I think that's something there to what they can do. And also with the email marketing, that's something there to which I just want to quickly just touch on there with you before we wrap up and whatnot. The future of email marketing, like obviously how like we have social media, we have all these new different types of things there, and yet everyone has. I mean, the way that's how I sort of look at it there with email marketing. We all have to sign up with an email. I mean, like everyone has to have an email for something and whatnot. But so that's kind of where I sort of say like email marketing could never go away. But then again, people are going to be getting spammed with so many emails all the time. Thoughts on the future of email marketing in your space, because like you are a professional and you are the top. And what's next for email marketing? Is it sort of like email, like not sending a newsletter once a week, or is it like sending a newsletter once every 2 weeks, or like only like when it's or only when the product is, or only when you have a new product coming through or whatnot? Like what's the sort of future there for sort of the email marketing sort of sense?
Let me explain it with 2 pyramids.
Okay.
And that's what I talked about at that New South Wales State Library at the author showcase.
Yes.
There's not many book writers that say, I write a book. And how can I make money from it? Instead of reverse engineering approach and think about how the journey should look like. So it's the customer journey that we need to describe. And when we offer something, in best case, we are also the customer of that area.
Yep.
If I'm a hairdresser, like my uncle has been, I should, in ideal case, also know about the industry. I might want to go to other hairdressers to find out how they do the things.
Yeah,
all of these ones. You need to be an expert on something. You need to be able to showcase that. That's important. But there's 2 pyramids. One pyramid is called I think buyer's pyramid, from a gentleman called Chet Holmes. He wrote a book, The Ultimate Sales Machine, a couple of years back. And that pyramid, out of substantial research, says that there are only 3% of people ever who are buying right now.
Okay.
There are 30% who know they will not buy at all.
Yep.
That leaves us 67, 2/3 that we can reach. But when they're not buying now, why should I bombard them with messages of buy now? It makes no sense. So I need to nurture those people.
Yeah.
And then we have the other inverted pyramid, which goes down.
Yeah.
Which is from, the customer journey from a marketing
the
side.
Funnel.
The funnel. Where you have the top of the funnel, the middle of the funnel, and the bottom of the funnel. Where the top of the funnel, we sometimes have the abbreviation of tofu, which also is cheese. And as a Swiss, I like cheese. So on the top of the funnel, that is where you can utilize the power of social media and put a lot of noise around that.
Yeah.
But be mindful of relevant. Relevance is important, and balance. Don't push too hard often. But then the key question is, somebody sees content for whatever other reason. Maybe because someone else commented on it.
Yep.
Not the AI feed of LinkedIn, which has 0 value. So then what we want to have as a provider or as a company owner or anything, we want to grab people from the top of the funnel.
Yep.
We know that only 3% maximum are ready to buy. So therefore, why should we create content that talks about buy now? But we should have content that makes them curious to learn more. So we need to earn the right of a conversation.
Yeah.
So then we put them into an email list, conversation, whatever. We need to be mindful that people don't have just one email.
Yeah.
They don't need to have 33 that I had in maximum of my time, not now. Because you work your emails.
Yes.
You do not want to have too much noise and then you give up.
Yes.
Why should I have LinkedIn notification of any type of sort? I have a secondary email address that I never look at.
Yes.
Only that it goes there. So what? I can filter it for something.
Yes, and when the emails do build up and whatnot, you're sort of like, I just couldn't be bothered listening or reading them.
You know the question, what is your best email address? You would not ask the best one in Germany, what's your email address? But here they say the best one, assuming that you have maybe a personal one, you have a professional one, maybe still one from university, and that is the currency. We need to earn the right of sending them a message. Yeah. If we do so, then we know that 3% only are ready to buy, the others not. In order to get the 67% of nurturing, I need to create an experience over email that is hyper-personalized.
Yes.
Not hi F name, and the F name is written for first name, but rather something different. So I think at my parents, when my mom loved winter sports, my dad loved summer sports.
Mm-hmm.
So a travel agency can send their quarterly, monthly newsletter to both of them, the same email. But my mom will get it in blue, gray type of colors, and my dad would get it in yellow, orange type of colors as a slight background, because that resonates. You can grab for whatever way the reason, you don't need to send them hardcore forms. But when you have this information, in the process of writing the email with custom fields and this hyper-personalization, that's what ActiveCampaign is very good at, in one process, the email is more meaningful. Whatever else you can grab about them. I'll give you an example. There's one guru on who knows LinkedIn well, Justin Welch, and he sends emails out.
Yeah.
He started 3 years ago to create newsletters that he sends every Saturday at the same time.
Oh, wow.
The only time when the time is different is because we have different daylight changes here in Australia. And that email at the bottom says, in my case, because I bought everything what he has, he says, thank you, you have all my products.
Okay.
Where if you would subscribe and you have never bought anything, in the same box, he would then maybe have 1 or 2, here 3 products only. Maybe it would be advertised over there.
Okay.
So it's relevant.
Yep.
Emails are so often perceived as spam because they're not relevant. So write them in a relevant form, hyper-personalized, and then with clear call to actions, and not to say a big roundup of everything. But be clear, give expectations so that people want to do it. But if you send it, be mindful of the people that you have on your list. Segment them. If you send to 1,000 people an invitation to a webinar, because only they might have even friends there or whoever in the past have done something, the open rate might not be that high because for many people it's not relevant anymore.
Yes.
Think about service providers who are in the game of helping them from pain to normal, like a dentist.
Yes.
Not the beautician who goes from normal to gain. Something that's another motion. But those from pain, if I had something in my bag once in my life, I do not need to have another email every week from the same person.
Yeah.
He helped me. I might not get it anymore.
Yeah.
So be mindful of these type of situation. But when who should get it, segment these people.
Yes.
Because when the currency is the email address, the power of the subscriber is in the hands of the unsubscribe button.
Yes.
You need to earn that they don't click that.
Exactly. So it's almost kind of like what we were talking about just earlier, how with the sales person, how they're creating that relationship with the client and whatnot, and how they've just like basically, even with the personalized emails, they're still creating that relationship with their newsletter and whoever they're sending it to. That's sort of like they're still creating that relationship, because as long as you just sort of said there, the power of the unsubscribe, as long as they're not unsubscribing to the newsletter or to the email, then you can literally sort of do like I won't say do anything, but you can literally sort of sell them like if you're having any new products, you can sell them new products. You can still advertise, not full blown sending them emails week after week about new products and whatnot, but you can still sort of sell, but you can sell them every now and then, like say once every 6 months. Like if it's like say the end of financial year, you can say I'm having an end of financial year sale where it's like 30% off all my ebooks, hypothetically. get it in before June 30 and whatnot, et cetera, or a Christmas special, New Year special, but it's just, so you're keeping it still personalized, but you're still sending them every odd email, and it's still hyper personalized, and you're still forming that relationship with them but the moment that they put unsubscribe, that relationship's gone.
Yeah, of course, when you are connected with someone on LinkedIn and you send them too much irrelevant, they might keep the connection.
Yes.
But that part is gone. So therefore, going through the email list, segment them wisely.
Yes.
Is helpful. When the service is to fix something for a client, then the message is not, can I help you again for the same thing?
No.
The message is then rather, hey, it helped you. Do you know anyone else that can be of service? Maybe here's a 10% of or whatever, or gift card that you get if you refer someone.
Exactly.
So really think about the customer journey. You should not send, particularly on this service, to fix something which doesn't happen for the same client too often. Then you think further ahead. The person who went from a prospect into a paid customer, but might be then in a stage of becoming a potential advocate.
Exactly.
It's a completely different content.
Yes, it's almost kind of like, just quickly before we wrap things up, like a doctor, for example, a doctor who has very good service, very good with their clients, very good with their patients. Very good with their patients. All of a sudden, their family, or all of a sudden, a friend of theirs might be, sick, and they're wanting to recommend a doctor. If the service is good, they'll recommend them to a doctor, and they will say to them, "This doctor here is very, very good. We'll recommend them," because they rarely. Obviously, when you go to a doctor, it's completely different, but that's how it just sort of seems like there to me. But yeah, the way as to how you sort of said there, especially with the email marketing, especially if you're doing like a branding, say with your books and all that there, having those emails, but having them personalized, that there, I think, the way, I completely agree. And I think, the way as to how we are heading towards into emails, we have to make them more personalized going forward because lots of people have different emails, but if you get 130 or 150 emails and whatnot, nobody's gonna read them. Nobody's gonna look at them. Nobody's gonna be like, yeah, look, you know what, I'm not gonna read it. Or people are just gonna be like, unsubscribe. So yeah, that's something there as to which I really genuinely do agree with there, Gunnar. So this here concludes the episode and whatnot. But before I then do that, I got basically my last or a couple of questions at the end. So we're in the end sort of stage there. What I always do at the end of the episode is I always ask my previous guest, which was Nathan Lindsay, and I ask him a question. I asked him a question from my previous guest, which was Raghav, and now Nathan gave me a question to ask you and whatnot. So he said in the previous episode 2 questions, but he then sort of stipulated more so towards the end this question. So sorry about that. So the question to the question there to what Nathan asked is, what is the most pivotal moment in your life, and what is the one thing that happened in your life that you feel like your life changed completely?
That was the period when I received a message that my role at HP for 16 years has been cancelled. The role was made redundant, not me. And I had to basically reinvent myself.
Okay.
Because in a big company, you think you know everything, that's the network that you have, and I realized that outside is a completely different world.
Yep.
I didn't expect at the moment that I will then end up in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
But it helped me so much to change life, kind of from ground up, and learn so much more about the strategic networking side.
Yeah.
Learn about different type of people, being open on it. In particular, what helped me was one career coach who I met in Auckland, New Zealand, Craig McAlpine, who said, Gunnar, nobody cares about your European experience.
Mm-hmm.
You need to have a local one.
Oh, wow.
So that told me one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't tell, hey, that's how they do it over there, and that's right. You do as well. No. It shows me when I have an experience from somewhere else to observe how something is done here to learn from.
Oh, wow.
And see the world with the different eyes. And that this type of layer of the first one that really happened. And I wrote in the book Lead Not Manage
Yes.
about that particular experience.
So my next question there to you is there, Gunnar, what are you going to ask my next guest? So that's the bit there which I sort of ask at the end. I say, what is the question there that you want me to ask my next guest? It can be any sort of question there. I mean, Nathan sort of sent his question there, so I'll leave that there to you.
Yeah, the question that I have is this one. What was the moment of your biggest failure in that moment? What really, where you have done something wrong?
Okay.
To then prepare for learning from that.
Okay.
What is the situation where you have done something wrong because you didn't know it better at that moment? And how did you turn this failure into a later victory?
That's a very good one. Like I'm even trying to think of that now for myself. And yeah, I tell you what, this season, Raghav gave Nathan a very good question. Nathan's given you a very good question. Now you've given my next guest there a very good question there, Gunnar. I mean, that there's really, really like, wow. But again, Gunnar, thanks again for agreeing to come on the podcast. Yeah, I mean, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure having you. I'm probably going to try and see if I can have you back on there, sometime soon. Either not right now, but because we're currently recording, but either sometime in the future and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, definitely, it was great to have you on there, Gunnar. I'm gonna definitely be looking forward to be reading the full book of Lead Not Manage. I'll definitely also try and get you to sign it, as well as also with the when you release LinkedIn for Startups. I'll definitely be sure to get that as well, and hopefully get you to sign that there as well. So again, thanks again for agreeing to come on, and yeah, I'll see you either sometime soon, or either at the next Open Coffee Sydney, or I'll see you there, and I'll speak to you there soon. So
thank you, Kieran. Thank you for having me. Enjoyed the discussion.
No worries. It was great to have a great discussion there with you, and that's why I like this podcast. So that's it. That's a wrap there, everyone. And thanks again for listening in, and I'll see you all next time.